All right. Can you hear me? Oh man. People are still here. Amazing. That was a good learning experience. If you could hear me, just say yes, I could hear you in the chat. All right. This is amazing. Look at that. I can't believe it. We should just call it now. We got to end on this positive note. So fantastic. The audio levels are good. Awesome. Cool. Man, webinar jam. It was probably my fault somehow. I don't know. I just rebooted the machine, and now it works. All right. So we don't have much time. We don't have much time at all. So thank you for your patience. There's like 49 people that stayed around. I think a couple people dropped off, but super cool that you stayed on and that it actually worked. So I can remove this message about, that. And let's get started. So this is the one of these behind the scenes SEO plan for niche sites. I was saying it a lot earlier, but I'm Doug Cunnington and I'm from Niche Site Project. I also cussed a lot, and luckily the audio didn't carry through. So that's good. You don't need to hear that kind of stuff. So what we can do is I had like some filler stuff, and I'm sure I'll like go into that in a few minutes, but I'm just going to go into the presentation right now and get moving. So let's see. I need to share this. I should be able to see my screen. And like I said, since we lost like 20 minutes on the whole microphone thing, I'm just going to move pretty fast. Questions are going to be at the end. I usually do, spend a little more time with the intros, but I actually recognize a lot of people's names and the locations. There's a lot of Canadians. Thanks for the support, and just across the world, it looks like there's a ton of people. Of course, I lost the chat, a lot of the chat messages from before, but okay, let's get into it. All right. I think you could hear me now, so I'll skip that one. So this quote, all generalizations are false, including this one. That's a Mark Twain quote. And I kind of just want to point that out, right? So this is an SEO plan for niche sites. It is kind of a generalization of a lot of, different strategies you can do. I'm going to go over 6 main areas. 2 of them are gray hat, and I don't even do those anymore. I save those to the end, but I'll point them out anyway because they work. So, keep that in mind when you hear about any SEO plans. There's a lot of different things that are going to work, and usually what you hear is a simplified generalization. And I will tell you, because of the amount of material that we're going to cover today, these are generalizations, right? So I'll be able to tell you the overall plan, but if you want details on any one certain area, you will have to go and read more and do more research on those. I'll tell you where to look for some of those, and if I don't mention it, I can also provide details on where to look. I tried to mention it when I remembered it in this presentation, and I'm going to do my best to try and finish at the top of the hour still, and take the questions after that. But if I happen to finish sooner, that'll be great. I know some people, it looked like a lot of people were getting up at odd hours. I appreciate you waking up to join me. So who am I? I said it like 4 times. So, but just to be redundant, I'm Doug Cunnington from Niche Site Project. That's my dad and I. We actually live pretty close to Yellowstone National Park. It's a couple hours away, but Old Faithful Geyser is, a nice sort of a destination. They allow you to bring your dog sort of like in the sidewalk parking area. So this was like last summer when my dad was helping me put in floors around here. Past track record and why you should listen to me. I have a few niche sites. I've been doing it for a little while. I've coached dozens of other people. I've done a lot of guest blogging and guest posting across the web. I'll tell you some of those spots in a second. And I also am a project management professional, a PMP, and I sort of bring I feel, more organization and process to like building niche sites so that it's more repeatable, and there's really like less decisions to actually be made. It's more just executing the process. So I have been mentioned in a few places. You can see them here. I actually just got mentioned on social triggers for a course that I worked on. I took one of Derek's courses on making courses, very meta. I also just recently had a guest post over at Genius Link. So it's actually a really good article. I think they liked it pretty well, and I'll probably be sending it out to the list, the email list for Niche Site Project coming up soon. And I think next week I'll have something going live over on Charles Float's blog. So keep an eye out for that. I won't dwell on this too much, but you can see, niche sites aren't all just sunshine and rainbows and jelly beans or whatever they say. There's some ups and downs. And right now, I'll tell you, with the Amazon commissions changing, I've taken roughly like a 35% hit on the profits from, a couple sites that were making, 5 figures a month. Just a reminder, Q&A is at the end. If you do have a question, it is super helpful if you mark it as a question. So you can do that. I should take us a little screenshot, but you can mark it in the chat just as the Q&A. Just makes it a little easier for me to sort through them. Okay. I usually talk about like why niche sites. I'll just go pretty quick and makes it sort of relevant to what we're talking about. Niche sites are great because they're cheap to get started, number one. And then the other part is you learn about all sorts of digital marketing. So you could spend your time learning, SEO, which we're going to talk about today. You can learn about themes. Perhaps you become a WordPress developer because you got into niche sites just because, you started learning about WordPress. You learn about hosting and domains. And then there's a whole other set of knowledge that you can get into, depending on what topic that you approach or whatever. So you can basically, learn all sorts about digital marketing and change your career if you wanted to, kind of what I did. So this is why we're here today, the SEO plan for niche sites. And I'll give you an overview at first, and then we'll sort of dive into the details of each one. Again, it's a bit of an overview for, each of the 6 steps, but it gives you a jumping off point. So link building is a game of incremental gains. 1% a day adds up over time. And the idea here is like most of the stuff that we talk about, if you just do that one thing, it's barely going to make a difference, but it'll make a little difference. And over time, these little differences will add up. So most of the time, especially these days, if you are making changes and adding links and doing the things that you need to do for SEO, it's not going to happen overnight. So a few years back when I got started in 2013, you actually could like rank a site, rank one keyword that was getting thousands, 5,000, 8,000, 9,000 searches per month. You could rank that number one in like 2 to 3 months. There were a lot of gray hat activities around it, but it was fast. That isn't the case anymore. So you have to do sort of a nice foundation and of links, and then continue working at it. So nothing's going to happen super fast, and that's a key thing to remember. Okay, so here's the overview, and I sort of start in the order that I would expect to go through. And again, I mentioned I'm going to cover 2 gray hat activities. I don't do these 2 anymore, the Web 2.0 blogs and the private blog networks, just to note. So starting off, social profiles, internal link building with silos, blog commenting, guest posting, the Web 2.0 blogs that are gray hat, the private blog networks that are also gray hat. So, and I do mention, the Web 2.0s and the PBNs, which I'll refer to private blog networks as PBNs throughout. PBNs, they work. The Web 2.0s and the PBNs, they work. they're risky, but if you know what you're doing and you know the risk that you're getting into and you have a high risk tolerance, they work just fine. I know plenty of people that use them, and they work fine. And that's why I'm covering them, because they are a tactic that work. They are tactics which do work, and I just happen to not use them. Okay, so social profiles. If I did this presentation a little bit better, I would have taken screenshots and shown you like these social profiles, but these are basically the simplest ones to get started, and there's no limit on how fast you can do it. So you can create your site. You could buy your domain, set up your site, get the hosting set up and all that, and then that same day you can go out and create a profile on each one of these different social profiles and then add your link back to your site. Now, these are going to be no follow links, right? And that's okay. It still is a link going to your site, and it also shows a bit of professionalism through your site, like you're taking it seriously, which will come into play for our later strategies that you're going to basically do to get better backlinks. So if if you're trying to connect with someone, you'll have these profiles. If someone sees that you have an Instagram account through your website, they're going to think, oh, well, that person kind of takes it seriously and they're actually putting out content. So these social profiles are great for that, right? It just adds social proof, and it allows you to connect with different people in different ways depending on what your niche is, right? So, depending on what it is, you may not want to get a MySpace or SoundCloud profile. It doesn't quite make sense to connect with people on that platform, but it wouldn't hurt to have a profile out there. And like I said, you could do these all in one day. In fact, there are even services that will create these for you. And, basically you don't have to do anything. Now, one thing I like to mention is just because you create the profile doesn't mean you have to be active out there. And that was one of the dangers or one of the pitfalls that I had, because I was trying to, be active on Facebook, Twitter, Google, and so on, right? So I was trying to be active in these different platforms, and it's overwhelming, right? Either you're, sending out the same stuff over and over again, and you're trying to follow, people on Twitter and refollow other folks and share people's stuff to get their attention. And anyway, it just ends up being a little bit of a, you're chasing your tail and you're not getting much out of it. So I pretty much just set them up and then don't worry about it. If I need to connect with someone on Twitter, then, maybe I share some of their stuff and then I'll connect with them afterwards. So I'll leave it at that. Set up social profiles. They're not bad to have, even though they are no follow links. I see a question from Bill, and I'll answer some if I see them popping up over here. The question from Bill is, do you set up a social profile for each niche site? Yes, I do. And as I mentioned, this is the thing. Be sure you actually add your URL to the profile. So don't forget to do that. Part 2 is internal linking with silos. Sorry. I saw Steph's question about Reddit. Sure. Any other profile that you want to create across the web, that's fine. I just looked up some list, and then sure, you could share them, you could place your link in any social profile. There's tons of different social networks out there, so feel free to go to any of them. So internal linking with silos. So, I listed some pros and cons here. I'll kind of get into it a little bit more with the examples. Actually, it makes sense to look at the example first. So the silo, if you were just looking at the structure here, you see that, and I'm just going to do that. So you can see that, from the home page, there's these different, topics. These are pages. In WordPress, they're pages, not posts. And this is apparent And each subtopic is a child of that parent. And what it does is provide you with like an architecture, right? You have to plan this ahead. So it's a little complicated if you haven't done it before. You have to think ahead about what your site's going to look like. And, you know, really Silos is about the interlinking, and I've added the links here, which you can see. So it does give you the URL structure. Sorry, I'm going to click back here to show you the URL structure in a moment. But, you know, for me, I like the backlinks that are in here. So from topic 1, you provide sort of a navigation in this article to go to the other posts, or sorry, the other pages, the child pages as they were. And then each of the child pages has a link going back to the main topic. And each of these main topics, they point back to the home page, and they also point to each other. So there's lots of interlinking, and it may even be a case where a subtopic points back up to one of its, you know, it's like an uncle or aunt if we're thinking of a family tree here. So it's pointing to one of the other main topics that it's not part of. And that's okay, that happens sometimes, especially if you think about, you know, a complex site. So the thing is, for me, silos are really about the interlinking. Even though you get a nice, you know, structure from the URL, which I'll show you here, that's this part here. So it would be like example.com/topic1/subtopic 1 through 5. And, you know, essentially you end up with this really nice structure. If you go to like an e-commerce site, I believe like Lowe's.com, which is a hardware store here in the US, they have, and there are, you know, many other sites that do a silo structure, but, you know, it would be like Lowe's.com/appliances/ you know, washer dryer / you know, Whirlpool. And then they'll have all those other models. The, you know, the bad part of that is if you end up with a long URL like that, it gets kind of cumbersome, right? So at some point it's too much. So I kind of like to keep them on the shorter side, like, you know, 2 or 3 subtopics and that sort of thing. The great part is you control the links, right? You can control the anchor text. You control relevancy, which is a really big deal. So if we look at, you know, this area, all of a sudden you have like 5 articles on a specific, you know, topic and subtopic, and they're all going to have a link pointing back to this topic number 1 page, right? So all of a sudden you have 5 relevant articles pointing to this article, and it'll help its rankings, especially if these are ranking right here. So the downside, as I mentioned, is it requires planning to do it, you know, quote, by the book. But there's a workaround that I'm going to tell you about, and I think I do in this post right here. So it's digitesitproject.com/WordPress-silos, right? So if you search for it, you'll find it. And essentially, and this relates to your post, Jonathan, So you can use post, right? So this is what I ended up doing because I didn't plan my site out, right? I didn't see the value in planning it out and doing all the architecture ahead of time. Just doing a niche site, you know, it's supposed to be fun. So I did some structure, right? So I did some like topics like this, and I did some sub pages, but the great majority of my content, like 90% of the content, are just posts. But I link them like I would this structure, right? So there's all sorts of interlinking all over the place. Every single post has like 3 or 4 links going to other pages or posts on my site. So I get the relevancy, I get the interlinking, and I generally get the benefits aside from the URL structure. Okay, so Sherry tells me there's a lot of buffering happening, or other people having issues with the buffering. And I'll pause just for a moment to see. I made the window larger, and that may have caused an issue there. Okay, so okay, cool. Thanks everyone for letting me know there. Awesome. Part 3, blog commenting. Okay, so this is like my favorite one to like do, because so many people don't think that blog commenting is worthwhile, which is great for us because it works, right? So number one, blog commenting is supernatural, right? So if you look at like high-end bloggers, right? So for example, I was reading Empire Flippers, right? The Empire Flippers like quarterly update, and I saw that Dan Andrews from the Tropical MBA, they do a podcast on the Tropical MBA, commented because they're buddies, right? They're friends, so they commented over there, and so Dan Andrews commented on the Empire Flippers podcast, and the Empire Flippers folks, Justin and Joe, they actually they would comment on theirs too. So it's totally natural for it to happen. And the cool part is it helps you network, of course, right? So you're able to, make friends. People have no idea who you are. And, I'll tell you a little story. A gentleman, he commented a couple times on my blog. He followed up with some emails. And I'm bringing him on to help me do some work, right? So he asked some smart questions. He did some work based on the answers. He showed me some results, and like that's the sort of initiative that you can do behind the scenes. And it worked out naturally that just like doing some blog comments on my blog like got him a gig, and I'm going to work with him some. So that's the sort of stuff that can grow out of blog commenting. Now, of course, it'll come into play for step number 4, which we'll talk about in a second. But generally, like the most powerful thing that blog commenting is going to do for you is help you network within your niche. All right. The other part with blog commenting is it adds diversity to your backlink profile. So, and that's like 2 main areas. One is going to be around anchor text. So typically that's going to be your name, right? So your anchor text is going to be your name. Never put your keyword in there because it looks spammy and no one's going to approve it. So just don't do that. Put the name in that you're using for your persona, right? So Natasha asked a question there. Do you use a niche type persona when blog commenting? Yes, definitely do that. And the other part for the diversity is you're just going to have more backlinks coming from different domains, and you'll get more referring domains, which is a good sign. The biggest argument against blog commenting is that there are no follow backlinks. It turns out that's not the only, that's not the only reason to do them. I've covered the other reasons that you would want to do them, so I won't go into it too much. I see Jeff asked a question, how much of an exact domain match do you want to have for your keywords? Low, right? So that's sort of like an old school way to think about it, Jeff. So I don't really do exact match domains. I do more like niche level, like brandable domains. So they may have a keyword in there, but I'm really not building a site around like 1 or 2 keywords, right? So I may start a site and target 1 or 2 keywords, but really it's around a full niche, right? So if I'm just going to use an internet marketing example, like I wouldn't build my site around just 1 or 2 keywords for internet marketing, like how to make money online, and then have a domain with those keywords in it somewhere. I would do a site like Niche Site Project, for example, because it's a little more general and it's more brandable, right? So, and the reason why I put project in there is because I'm a project manager, so I can sort of tie it in to that. Plus, it's a term that people were talking about already for 2-3 years before I even bought the domain. Okay, if you want to know more about blog commenting, you can go to nichesiteproject.com/blog-commenting. So it should be pretty easy to find. There's a video there and some how-to information. And I see we got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to just kind of try and blast through here. So number 4 is guest posting. And Again, guest posting is natural. A few years back, there was a sort of a backlash against guest posting from Matt Cutts, who was the head of the spam team at Google. He's not anymore. But at the time, he was like, guest posting is dead. And that got like big headlines. But really, that was all about like guest posting networks. The guest posting that I'm talking about is through natural manual outreach and networking within your niche. So guest posting is, that'll get you the best kind of, in the text contextual backlinks that you can get. If you're, guest posting on some site and they only give you a bio line, you're sort of like selling yourself short. Those links are nice, but it's always better to have the link in the text. And I kind of like to have them sort of like in the first couple paragraphs. If I can get my most important links that I want to have in the first couple paragraphs, that's the best. It's a higher likelihood that a person is going to read the post and actually follow the link just because it's higher up on the page. People don't read on the internet, by the way. So they'll take a look, they'll click around, and they'll scroll down. So if you can get the link higher up, that's a better way to have people follow your link. Additionally, you can get links to your affiliate content, but only if your affiliate content is like good content. So if you have poorly written content, perhaps you outsourced it and the grammar isn't that good, you didn't edit it, maybe it's a 800-word post with no pictures, no one's gonna like happily link to that. They're gonna take a look at it and they're gonna see that it's not really good content. The idea is you want to help people by sending them to your page. So if you make the page helpful, say with a great comparison table, so if someone wanted to buy something, they'd be able to learn something from your site. That's what you want to do. Additionally, guest posting is kind of the perfect next step right after the blog commenting, because you're doing some relationship building. If you do some blog commenting and then you send an email to the person and say, hey, I really liked your last post. Keep up the great work. People love to get those emails, right? So that's just a nice thing to do. And if the people like you, they're more likely to accept your guest post. The other part that people usually don't talk about, right? So it's hard enough to convince folks that they should guest post, but once you get enough guest posts out there, you can start linking to your other guest posts that are previously published. Those links are a little easier to get in because you're not just linking to your own site 5 times. So you could put like 5 links in there, 1 going to your site, 4 going to your other guest posts, and then you end up getting like a really nice backlink profile where you're actually building links to your other guest post. So I see a question that came through. How do you make your links look natural in guest posting? So normally I just say, if you want to get more information on, I always look down at a device on my table. If you want to get more information on like a microphone for your laptop, you could read this guide. So it's as simple as that. So you're trying to, provide some information. And if your post answers that question, then you're good to go. And I see, Jeff, you marked your question as a question, so appreciate that. I think I covered it. So basically, no, I don't really put keywords in my domain. All right, so we're moving on to Web 2.0s. Let's see. Before I go on to Web 2.0s, I see some questions coming through. So Art says, would not use best microphone though. So I'm not sure what you mean, Art, but like, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what that means. Roman asks, what percentage of paid and free guest posting do you do? I do 100% of the free version and 0% of the paid. So I do see more and more sites asking for, payments. So I imagine before too long, the prices are going to go up, and or it's going to be so widespread that those sites are going to have an issue. So this sort of happened a while back. So Art says best microphone would be using your money keywords instead of just microphone. It's like Jeopardy, Art. Can you phrase that in the form of a question? That'll help me answer it a little bit better. So phrase it in the form of a question. I'm going to go on to Web 2.0 blogs, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so Web 2.0 blogs. If you're not familiar with these are essentially like a WordPress.com blog, or let's see, what are some other ones out there? I kind of forgot. It's like blogger.com. There's dozens of them out there. There's a lot of different like platforms. I think Weebly may be one. And essentially these are gray hat, right? So gray hat means it's against the terms of service of Google, like Webmaster Tools. So, and Tumblr, yeah, Dami, that's right. Tumblr is another one. And essentially, you can control the links 100%. So you can control the anchor text, and you can, put the whatever anchor text you want. So you could target your, best microphone or whatever you want to put there, or you can, diversify it and put like a long phrase like click here to learn more about microphones, something like that. And the advantage with these is, if you create them yourself, they're free, right? So these are free platforms where you can go create your own blog, publish your own content as much as you want. And it's on a site, it's on a domain that has, really high authority. So it ends up being like a high authority like site linking back to you. Now, the thing is, right, so I listed this in the downside, it's actually a pretty weak link unless you actually get a service like the Hoth, and then they sort of boost up the authority of the specific page. So you're able to actually make those links a lot more powerful. Now, of course, if you pay for a service, then you're talking about paying hundreds of dollars for these links. Now, the upside is, like I said, they actually work, right? So I know a lot of my peers that use PBNs and Web 2.0 blogs, they will like buy a package from the Hoth as their like base set of links, and it won't make their site rank #1, but it'll get them to rank like in the top 30, right? So they'll be able to move their site up by just paying for some links, and it takes a few weeks for these packages to get completed. Now the other downside is like eventually these links get de-indexed. They basically go away just over time, over about a year or two. 50% of the links will be gone. That's, by the way, that's just a case study of one. So that that isn't across the board. It always depends, but just on average, those are going to be de-indexed by Google, and they won't count. So and I also mentioned it could lead to a penalty if you use them incorrectly. So I can't outline all the ways that are incorrect, but if you did something like, buy a bunch of Hoth packages and provided like exact match anchor text for all of them, you would end up with way too much anchor text, and probably a lot more of those Web 2.0 blogs would get de-indexed, and your site could get penalized for unnatural backlinks. So if you use these right, they can be a nice sort of like way to diversify your anchor text and to get a base set of links to go along with your social profiles, for example. All right. And Sharon asked, what exactly does gray hat mean? So that is against the terms of service for Google Webmaster Tools. So basically, Google doesn't like anything that's gray hat, and those are sort of like artificial things. Now, it's key to note, right? So these activities are like they're not against the law or anything. They're just against the terms of service that Google has for their, index, their web index. Okay, so coming back to Art, thank you for clarifying. It's always tough with chat, so I apologize for not following you 100%. So Art says, I was told not to use money keywords in guest postings. So if you're trying to rank for microphones, you would not use best microphone, as it looks like the link was there to manipulate the ranks, but I was penalized, so I'm cautious. Well, you're right to be cautious just in general. That's a good quality, And then I would say, I'm going to refer back. I'm going to scroll way back up to the beginning of the, if I can get back up there to my quote that's somewhere all the way at the top. Sorry, I didn't realize it was all the way at the top. So I'm generalizing, right? And I'm also telling you my plan. So it sounds like you're getting tips and advice from other people, and I'm sure their plans are great. So if it works for them, I trust that you're following a smart person. So, do whatever they said. For me, I'll put my money keywords in a guest post. Those are the best places to put them, in my opinion. I mean, as we mentioned here, these are the best kind of links you can get. If you're not going to put your money keywords in the guest post, then I'm not sure where you're going to put them. So, but like I said, this is just my method. This is not the only way to do it. So, like I said, if you're following people that you trust, then, stick with it. Wendell asks, do I have any idea why pen.io deleted thousands of article pages? Wendell, I'll answer the question with a question. Were they spammy, sort of crappy articles, or were they like good, high quality articles? And if they were high quality articles, I'd be surprised. But if they were spammy, sort of like Web 2.0 blogs like we're talking about right here, I would say they deleted them because they were bad content. But I actually don't know about, they were good articles. They were good articles. I have no clue. I'm actually not up in the know with the pen.io stuff. Okay. And moving on to PBNs. It looks like we're doing pretty well on the time here. So gray hat again. So private blog networks. This is a huge topic. I used to have a whole course on like just PBNs. So this is huge, and we'll just go like sort of high level. So at its core, the PBNs are essentially expired domains, which have either expired or old domains that have a lot of good backlinks pointing to them. So essentially, these domains have a lot of power behind them and a lot of like link juice and authority. So they are great, they're links that you're going to want to get, essentially. And the good part is for PBNs is you control the links 100%. They can be powerful links. You can, change up and take care of your anchor text ratio however you want to. And really you have like the best of, you control your links. Like that's the best of both worlds, and they're powerful. Now, of course, there are big downsides to PBNs. Now, let's just make an assumption that you know how to run a PBN, you know how to set it up and everything. They can be expensive, right? So when you just think of the setup, you're going to have to think about like buying a good domain. Now, a few years ago, you could like go find your own domains that were decent authority, and you could find them for free, and it would only cost, whatever the domain registration was, which is, usually about 10 or 15 bucks. So pretty cheap. Nowadays, if your domain was dropped, you're not guaranteed to get the authority that the, expired domain had. There was in the last month or two, Google said they're no longer they're no longer taking into account the backlinks for a domain that was expired and is now like repurchased, which a lot of people said that was sort of like sensational and not actually true. I'm not sure, I haven't tested it, but I will say the people with the best domains typically buy them at domain auctions now. So instead of a few bucks, $10 or $20 to register a domain, you have to buy the domain at an auction and then register it. So that could be hundreds or usually thousands of dollars if you're actually going to get a domain that's worthwhile. So after that, you have to deal with hosting, publishing content, and so on. So the point is there's a lot of costs that can be associated with running a PBN the proper way. If you're going to do it a cheap way, if you're going to do it in a cheap way, then that's not a good idea. You're more likely to get penalized. So a minute ago I mentioned I'm making the assumption that you know how to set up and manage a PBN, but the thing is, it's not 100% clear. There's a lot of footprints that you can leave that could put you at risk. And you're already at risk for having sort of that, just those links from a domain that has expired. And if you don't do everything correctly, it's really easy to pick out a network. In fact, even if you do things correctly, a skilled SEO can go, dismantle your network and go see where your domains are in a couple hours. It's not really that hard to do. So, okay. So I'm going to wrap up the PBN part, and I see a lot of questions over there, so I'll come back to those in a second. But overall, if I'm comparing the two, like the two gray hat Web 2.0s versus the PBNs, PBNs will blow away the Web 2.0 activities. The PBNs will actually be a lot more expensive, so you're actually you're getting what you pay for, so that's no surprise. People can rank, and if you study the SERPs and you go look at sites that are doing well, you're going to find a lot of PBNs out there. There was a big backlash against PBNs for a while. There still is, but I mean, the people that were into PBNs are still into PBNs, and they still work. And they were actually pretty happy that a lot of people stopped messing with them because they do work. Now, I can't overemphasize the risk. They work, but you have to be ready to throw everything away. And even if you're doing it right, there's still risk with it. Heck, I mean, even doing guest posting and stuff like I do, there's still risk in that, right? There's still things out of my control, and I'm playing by Google's rules to get my traffic. All right, we are at the Q&A portion, so I'm going to turn the video. Ask, am I going to send out a replay link? Yeah, it should go out automatically if you're signed up, which if you're sitting here watching, you should get that link. If you don't see it, just shoot me an email and I can make sure you get it. And there should be another post that goes out to YouTube. So if you're not, actually everyone, before we get into the questions, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you should go check it out. There's a bunch of different examples of, actually I go through and tear down different niche sites and say what I like, any terms that they're violating. I say what I don't like, what I do like, and I just go through them. There's, I think, 9 out there right now, and I'm probably going to add another 9 more or so. So if you're not on my YouTube channel and you're not a subscriber, go check it out. Additionally, this video is going to be out there later. So that kind of happens automatically. Charmaine asks, have I ever used 301 redirects to increase the authority of your site? Do I know if they work? Yes, I have done that back in the day. I don't do that anymore. It introduced the same kind of risks as PBNs in a very similar way. So yep, they do work. And the best cases are if you get a domain that's actually in the niche, right? So let's say, what example did I give earlier? Oh, microphone, right? So I was talking, since we had all these audio issues, right? It's fun to use an example that's so relevant for us today. So the microphone, if you say found a band that like disbanded, which I'm sure there's like hundreds and dozens and tens of thousands of bands that used to be like a band and then they broke up. If you got like a music related blog, a domain rather, and then you know, resurrected it and then redirected it to your site, that would probably be helpful. Now, in light of the newest stuff that I mentioned about, an expired domain, like not providing the same kind of, authorities that it used to, then, I'm not sure if that would work, but I know at least up until that point, it would work. And I will say, I know that people have, rebuilt sites on, or not rebuilt sites, but built a new site on an old domain in the same niche. And those tend to do really well, by the way. Okay, Leo. How's it going, Leo? What's up? Does the recent Fred update change your plan? If so, can you share what adjustments? It doesn't. So to be candid, as I am, the Fred update, I don't know as much about it. I hear just generally, and people feel free to correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, generally it sounds like it's discounting like a poor backlink profile and like bad links. So from my perspective, like I said, I only do the first 4, so none of those are like gray hat. So for me, no impact. I'm only doing, social profiles, interlinking on the site, blog commenting, and guest posting. That's what I cover in 5-Figure Niche Site, by the way, also, Leo. So, and that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing Web 2.0s, and I'm not doing PBNs. So if I were to adjust, I would say, make sure that you're, I would probably stay away from like Hoth package style services, just because the network of PBNs that they would be using to boost up the Web 2.0s is going to be basically like a footprint that's not so hard to find. Even if they have tens of thousands of sites, those are all going to be sort of like in bad neighborhoods, as they say, so bad hosting. And I like the Hoth, by the way. I mean, I've been an affiliate for a while, and their customer service is outstanding. You just have to know exactly, what you're ordering and the risks that you're sort of encountering by using a service like the Hoth. So back to the point of your question, the adjustments that I would make, I guess I would just make sure that, if I did Web 2.0s, I would probably get like high quality PBN like links to point to them, not through a service. So I'd probably build the Web 2.0s manually, buy like PBN links to point to those, and then you're sort of insulated. Also those PBN links, I would make sure those are really high quality, so that you have high quality PBN links pointing to the Web 2.0s that are then pointing to your money site. So in that way, at least you're insulating yourself a couple layers from any of like the PBNs. The second part is like, as long as you're using like a really good, setup for your PBNs, that's like use premium hosting, publish good content, have a social following, actually get traffic on the site, then you're probably going to be in good shape. There's a guy named Matt Diggity Marketing. He's sort of like the cutting edge of like PBN information, I think. He does a lot of experiments, super smart guy. He's out of Chiang Mai. And then there's another guy, Charles Float, who I mentioned earlier. And he's sort of like, cutting edge as well with, sort of gray hat activities and that sort of thing. So if you do want to know more, I'll tell you 3 places for like PBN stuff. One, we'll go to my site, right? So go to Niche Site Project and look up private blog networks. You'll find a lot of information. I believe I actually have a link to Diggity Marketing there, but you can go right to Diggity Marketing and check it out. If you do, tell them I sent you there. And then same with Charles, like you should be able to find a link on my post to one of Charles, post about PBNs, probably. And yep, so I'll leave it at that. Move on to the next. Okay, now moving on. Oh, and Sharon says the reviews are good, so appreciate that. Thanks for watching. Jeff asks, do you diversify the anchor text for interlinking? How important is that? Yeah, basically, you don't want to over optimize your anchor text. There's a lot of different opinions on that, and I'll just tell you what I usually do. I usually tell my content manager, because I'm hardly publishing anything myself, right? So I tell my content manager, hey, put like 3 or 4 links to other posts that are related that you can, just relate the topic to the other post, and make it a long phrase, like make it 6 words long or 8 words long or a sentence. I tell them to, be random with it, and it's good to use like a couple of the keywords. So basically, these are like keyword-rich partial matches that are long phrases. So in that way, it comes out really natural. I have no idea what the anchor text ratio is. Most all of the interlinking in the silos or on the post have 1 or 2 of the keywords in the phrase in the anchor text, and then there's like a lot of other words. So it's not over optimized. It seems to work really well. How important is that? I don't know. I would just like on a very vague scale, I would say pretty important. Okay. And then Fuad asks, I read somewhere Google likes less depth in the URL, meaning if my homepage, if my page is homepage, Google likes it. If my page is a second member in the tree, meaning that's good, but not better than example. So if I use example.com/tier1/my URL, will that hurt Google rank? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think that is going to matter. There's probably there's a lot of other things you should worry about. Now, if you end up having like a super long URL with like 5 different layers, that's probably not good, right? I wouldn't do that. And Daniel asked, what about Alex Becker? You know what? I know a friend of mine, Quentin Hamp. He's a Cubicle Houdini. He likes Alex Becker pretty well. I never liked like Becker's persona so well. Seems like a great businessman. If he's all about PBNs, check him out. I'm not sure. I didn't enjoy his content very much, so just not my thing. But if you like him, check him out. All right, so Roman mentioned something about Becker. Let's see. And then Art asks or mentions, that's what I was asking about before, used the wrong terminology, should have been anchor text. So Art, are you good on the answer there? And then okay, any more questions? It looks like they've sort of subsided. Okay, so we're at 1:15. So any last questions coming through here? Any last questions? Okay, so Dami asked, if I was impacted by the Fred update. No impacts on the Fred. Okay, Jeff asks, a little off topic, but I'll answer it anyway. Jeff asks, what kind of freelancer would you hire to find a good content manager on Upwork? Well, I'll tell you what I did, and this is the only way I've gotten the content managers, is I hire a writer, and then I promote them to an editor, and then I'll promote them to a content manager. So that's what I do. If you just look for a content manager, you'll probably find like really good candidates, but it'll probably cost you like 2 or 3 times the hourly rate. I pay about $9 or $10 for a content manager. Let's see. Man, look at all these questions are rolling in. All right, let's keep them going. Okay. And Jeff, just yeah, I would say go for writers and then try and promote them. It'll be a little cheaper. I will tell you, um, it may take a little time, right? So I know a lot of people struggle with hiring folks. If you want to, you can try and hire a content manager or editor like right off the bat. If you want, it'll just be more expensive. Daniel says, how do I get content written? Yep, Upwork. Daniel, I go to Upwork and I hire a writer. Roman asks if I use any broken link techniques. I do not. Jeff says, oh, you listen to my podcast with Laz. Cool. You know what? I need to re-listen to it myself. It was a couple weeks back when we recorded that. Thanks for checking it out. Gary says, do I ever submit a guest post with no author box? Yeah, it's just sort of up to the blogger, I guess, however they run their blog. Sometimes there's no author box, but really I just want my links in the context. And Natasha says, do I blog comment forever on an ongoing basis for each niche site? Not sorta, right? So depending on what stage I'm in, but I will usually do, oh, sorry, I kicked the desk there. But I'll usually do sort of like a period where I'm like doing a lot of, a lot of blog commenting, and then I'll just sort of stop. But it's a good practice, right? Like I said, it's a normal thing to network within your niche. If you happen to be interested in it, then it's really good. Okay. So Mark asked, how do I handle, how do I balance writing guest posts and new content in sprints? Because I do it all myself. Okay. That's a good question. Let me think about that. You're talking niche sites? And I'm going to assume you're talking niche sites. Basically, I have all of that like outsourced. So like whenever it comes along, I kind of have like one team, a smaller team of writers always writing like new content. And then I have like ad hoc writers that I'll hire to do the guest posting stuff. And then for like niche site project, I just do all the writing and like try to manage it all myself. It's a lot of writing. Daniel says, US writers. Yeah, I only hire like US or Canadian writers. They can be like located somewhere else, but I want them to be like able to speak and write in American, like American English, right? So we have our own brand. So keep that in mind. And do I ever submit a guest post without a content box? I'm not sure what that means. Oh, and then Gary also mentions just a link in the article. I'm not sure what that means. Like it'll have content. It always has content. Okay, so Daniel said, do I have a podcast? I don't have a podcast, but I was a guest on Content Champion. So you should be able, if someone has the link, can you post that for Daniel and everyone else? Okay. And Roman says, how many guest post links do you usually need to rank an article by one keyword on average? I don't know, man. It really depends. But if you want to benchmark to aim towards, get 15 or 20 and then ask me. Like you could ask me for advice then. Get 15 or 20 guest posts to one page and then tell me what's happening. And then we'll see what the problem is if it's not ranking. And Gary says the KGR test is going well. That's awesome, Gary. Thanks. And yeah, that's really cool, Gary. Definitely want to see the results when you're all done. And Carolyn asks, you're Australian, you use English spelling. Would you suggest you use American spelling instead? Oh, no. Whatever you want to use is fine. I'm assuming like you're asking for your site. It's like, whatever you're targeting, that's, or however you want to present it, it's cool. For my particular like site, one, it filters people out, right? So if I ask some very specific questions where I'm like, hey, I don't just want an English speaker, like I want you to be able to speak American slang, do you watch these TV shows? Like, what are you into? And I'll ask questions like that so they can't fake their way out of it, right? What I don't want is someone who, is a, quote, native English speaker, but really like their home native language is, I don't want to actually, like, I'll use Filipino, right? I'm half Filipino, so I can use this example. Like, they speak English fine, right? My mom speaks English well, right? We can understand what she's saying. However, if I get some content from certain writers from the Philippines in which they don't actually know American English very well, it definitely sounds awkward. And an American, like, English speaker, that's the target of my audience, right? An American English speaker would be able to see that difference. So that's not going to work for me, right? So I call it out specifically. Then, like, for you, Carolyn, I would say just, do, what's best. If you're writing the content, right, and you write, with English spellings, there's a couple extra U's, like, in color, right, or just one extra U in color. That's okay. It's not a problem. We know how to read that. It's just I'm filtering out a lot of people by my method. Okay, and then there's two Jeffs. One says KGR is great, and then the other one says, "What is KGR?" That's a whole other topic, man. I can't get into KGR today. It's keyword golden ratio, though. If you go to the YouTube channel, you could watch a whole other webinar on that whole topic. All right, Mark asked, and you know what? We're going to take like 2-3 more questions because I need to do some stuff in a minute. So sorry to cut it short, but keep firing away and I'll just answer them quick. All right. Mark asked, once your niche sites start getting traffic, do I take any steps to A/B test or do any CRO? Very little, no. If you're not getting just a ton of traffic, then it's not gonna be worth your time. There's one site that I have that was getting something like 1,500 to 2,500 visitors per day to just one page, and like, we tried to do a little CRO, and we would be able to tweak a couple of things here and there, but it turns out most of the time when you're tweaking some like A/B tests, like, they fail. Like, most of the time they fail. Another site, one of my sites basically has some crazy conversion rate. It's like 14% on average, just like a regular day, not around the holidays. It converts really, really well. And, I guess it's through the KGR, actually. It's like really targeted traffic. They do, the visitors that show up on the site are really interested in the topic, so it converts super well. So yeah, short answer, no, I don't really do A/B testing or CRO. If you had a site that had a lot of traffic, like a lot of traffic, then it would be worth it. We try to use Visual Website Optimizer. And the thing is, like, if you're actually doing A/B test, like, that software is expensive. It's very expensive. All right. Sean asks, if I were going to recommend to follow some other niche gurus, who would I recommend? 1 or 2 recommendations. I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I would just pick one person to follow and just follow them. Okay, any more questions? And Sean, actually, to elaborate, I don't follow that many people, so I would just make sure whoever you're following, like, actually has results, and right, they have results, and they have students and other people that have results too. And I point that out because it's super easy to, like, share your own results, but it's very hard to teach other people to do the same things that you could do. But I will say, heck, Gary talked about your results for KGR. There's probably like 5 or 6 other people that have done things that we talked about in these exact webinar sessions, and they're getting like positive results. So I would make sure whoever you're following can get results for their students and not just themselves. All right, cool, Sean. Thanks. I'm glad that answers the question. Yeah, follow me. Just follow me, right? So, all right, we're wrapping up here. And okay, so any more last questions here? Any others, and then we'll finish up in like 1 or 2 minutes. And basically, so I will say I want a favor. Like, if you got anything out of this like whole webinar, I really like appreciate you sticking around. By the way, I think a lot of people were way more patient, so that's really cool. I appreciate that. But basically, I'm trying to build my email list, right? I think I've said this for the last few weeks. I'm trying to build my email list to get more people on my list, and I'm doing it through these webinars. I'm not pitching you. I'm not even trying to send you to affiliate offers. I could have done 5 or 6 different affiliate things just in the content today, but I really don't care about that right now, right? I just want to build the email list. So if you could share, my site or the YouTube channel, or you can even send a link, right, for this webinar replay. You're going to get an email. Like, you can send that out to someone if you think they can get something out of it. And just, maybe you don't have anyone in mind right now, but in the future, if people are asking you about like, hey, what are you doing with all this internet marketing stuff? I'm curious. I want to learn more. Send them to my site. I would really, really appreciate it. Okay. And let's see. Cool. People are saying thank you. So I appreciate it. Thanks, Roman, Natasha. And let's see. And okay, Carolyn, really appreciate it. And then Sean asks, what email list do I use? Aweber. I use Aweber. It's kind of clunky and stuff, but it's a real pain to switch, and they do what I need them to do. So, all right, cool. Well, I will be back again next week. So I think the topic may be like how I started Niche Site Project. Some people were interested in that, and I haven't thought about that in a little while. So that'll be fun to go over, especially since there's a lot of folks that have been on like 5 or 6 of these. So I appreciate it. We'll catch up with everyone later. And thanks again for your patience earlier. Bye.